Hello explorers and welcome to my video. Today we are going to talk about F5 TTS.
Now that is pretty scary. So this is a model in F5 TTS that will train on a reference audio trying to sound similar to that audio, and with a little bit of help and perhaps some editing and so on, you can get it to sound really normal and really close to the actual base material. And it's trained for a bunch of different languages. The current checkpoint supports English and Chinese, so I wonder how many generated audio clips of some famous people are out there, but I guess a lot of them. So gonna look into how this works and how to set it up, and also how to train. I have run a little training around and the result is not that great, but it would have required me to run for about 3 weeks, and I'm not gonna spend that time to create something that is already available. So let's jump over to my screen here. So this is the interface that we're looking at. And if we remove that, if we open this file explorer here I have some podcast. I just dump the file into here. I'm gonna unmute that, and then we see that we have a text string here. We run synthesize. It will create this audio clip. It will take a couple of seconds for it to regenerate.
Hello
and then you have
explorers
another
and welcome to my
of
video.
this
Today
audio clip.
we are going to talk about F5 TTS.
And I'm not really sure how that sounded because I don't have my headphones on, but I hope that it sounded okay. Now, this is the interface for how to run this, and you can of course choose a custom model, and here you could choose one of the models that you have on your hard drive, or you can download a model as well. But let's jump over to the training part of this. So now we have started the interface here for the inference. So this is called F5 TTS Infer Gradio, but you can also run the fine-tune Gradio. So that's a different model or a different interface that we are gonna run. And in this interface, we will first listen to the result that I got for my my last run, and then I'm gonna look into how to set it up. So if we go to the training part here, this has been running for, I've seen the training samples for about 10,000 times. So if we first listen to the original voice here,
And then you say, okay, well, we do that.
and then we have the generated.
That's
not really great. And if we look at the result down here, when we have run it for 10,000 times, so this is about a couple of hours.
But I think that it's more fun to
original, and here we have the generated. So it's still not great, but if you have run this for days, I can assure you that it gets a lot better. If we look at this, it's going to run it for 15,766 and against 121 samples. And if you have a lot more samples, of course, it will take longer time. And my GPU is not that advanced. So let's look into how to set this up. So now I have a directory where we don't have anything in this directory yet. So I'm gonna clone the F5 TTS repository from SVID. So SVD has this repository. And then if we go into F5 TTS here, we need to create an environment for our Python. And I have all the drivers and so on for my graphics card already installed here, but we will create a Python environment we will activate that environment and then install a bunch of dependencies for this. And I try to just install F5 TTS, and you can do that, but if you do that, you don't get the data directory and so on that is in this repository. And the data directory is actually required for doing some of the steps during the training. So for inference, it's fine to just download the tool and run the inference step. That works just fine. But if you want to train a model, take down the repository and run this script to download and install the dependency. So now we are done with that. We have all the dependencies. We should be able to run this script, right? This fine-tune Gradio. And if you do that without doing any changes, it will actually crash. I'm not sure why they haven't fixed this or why they are in the middle of development and have a version that doesn't work. But this doesn't work because there is no keyword argument called show API. So they are working on adding an API for this interface. So let's go in here and remove that part. We don't need to have show API. So the last argument on the execution on the bottom of this file, we just remove that, and then I should be able to run this fine-tune Gradio. So in the future, that step will probably not be required. It's just now that they have added the variable and not implemented it for some reason. So if we go back to my screen here, we see that we now have the fine-tune interface. And then we have a project up here. This is something that we want to work in. And then we have some transcription. We have vocab check and so on. So let's create a new project, MySpeak. It will create it there. And this project don't have any files in it. So I will take the files that we had before here. I will take these 5 files, put them in here. It will upload those to the interface. And it's just a bunch of podcast audio, and then I can run transcribe. So this will take a little while to transcribe. So it will pretty much take these longer files and then transcribe them into a different text and then segment it up in smaller files so we will have something we can train on. They want to have something that is 0 to 30 seconds long, and it will probably create a couple of these that are too long and will be removed later on. And now we are done, and we got about 126 samples in our wave directory. We can select a random sample here. We see that we have a bunch of text.
So day 19 was fine.
And see what we actually was splitting up. Then next up, we're going to do a vocab check, and this will check if the vocabulary contains all the characters or if we want to extend it with any more characters. But in this case, it just says you can train on this language. It's fine. Then we need to prepare the data. This will create a metadata file with all the audio clips in that metadata file. So we will run this prepare step, goes really fast, and it finds that about 5 of these are too long. So we got 121 samples. We could listen to another sample here, and here we see that it has tokenized it to different letters as well that it wants to create. Next up, we have the training of the model. And this is pretty simple as well. You just do auto settings and select the model up here to work with. It will give you a bunch of epochs. In my case, a lot of them. And the batch per GPU size is also pretty large. And then one thing that is very important is this keep last checkpoints. These are about 5 gigabytes in size. So if you don't have endless amounts of space on your drive, put this to a 5 or a 10 perhaps to keep a couple of the checkpoints. -1, you will have all of them. 0, don't save any of them. And then you just start training. In my case, I can't run the web browser and the recording and train, of course. What I did last time, I started the training, it crashed and said I didn't have enough GPU memory. Then I closed everything down and I ran that command that it prompted in the interface over here. So it will now it ran Whisper, so it shows a lot of Whisper commands. But it will tell you what commands it runs in the console, and then I just copy pasted that and ran that. And that was fine for my GPU, and I have 12 gigabytes of memory. If you have more than that, it can just work during the interface. I run on the other GPU that has about 48 gigabytes of memory. I didn't have any problems. I just started training and everything was fine. So if you have more of these enterprise versions of GPUs, then you don't have this problem. And then next up, we can test the model. This is pretty much just the inference step again. Prune checkpoint is very interesting. That we'll run later on. This will take your 5 gigabyte base model and prune it down to about a gigabyte of 1.3 gigabytes. So you can run it for inference. But you can use it for inference or fine-tuning afterwards, but not able to resume pre-training. So that's the thing with this. You can make it smaller, and you can have that as a starting point, but you can't just run from it. You need to continue pretty much. Yeah, and then you have a system info where you can get the info of your GPU and CPU on your. And you see here that I'm running 3080 Ti with about 12 gigabytes of memory. So this is pretty much what I wanted to cover today. This is a very interesting way of doing this. You have CLI interfaces as well, so you can run this from the command line, of course. But running it in the web browser like this makes it much more easy for anyone to get into and understand. So if you run the CLI, you will get a prompting with all the different parameters you can put in. But I think having the way for you to, maybe I need to do help or something like that. But having a web interface makes it more approachable for people that are usually not running these kind of commands. Yeah, so here we see that we have all these parameters you can put in and run it from the console. So this was what I want to cover today. I hope that you found this interesting. I hope that you learned something today. If you liked this video, give it a like, share it with your friends and colleagues. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. If you have any comments or suggestions, leave those in the comment section down below. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. And I really want to see you in the next video.